Hi, I'm Mr. Pipsley and I'm glad to see you all here on this channel. If you're interested in hearing a story about zombies and how they took over the world, then you're in for a treat. But before I begin, I want to encourage you to like and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. By doing so, you'll be able to stay up to date with all the latest content and never miss out on any exciting stories. So sit back, relax, and let's delve into the world of zombies. I promise it'll be a thrilling ride. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was a war between the zombies and the plants. It was a never-ending battle, but the plants had been winning for years. However, one day the zombies decided to switch up their tactics by creating zombie soldiers, zombie bosses, and other undead creatures to aid them in their fight. The plant army, led by the brave and fearless potato, the strategic and cunning cucumber, the tough and sturdy corn, and the fast and agile radish, knew they had to come up with a plan to defeat the zombies and their new army. They gathered together, and Potato spoke first. "We need to take out the zombie bosses. They're the ones giving orders to the other undead creatures, and without them, the zombie army will crumble." Cucumber agreed. "Yes, but we can't just rush in. We need to come up with a strategy, something that will give us the upper hand." Corn suggested, "What if we use traps? We can set them up around the bosses' camps and lure them in." Radish chimed in, "And while the bosses are trapped, we can use our catapults and bows to take them out." The plan was set. They would create traps using vines and thorns, set them up around the bosses' camps, and lure them in. Once trapped, they would use their catapults and bows to take them out. The four plants set out to create the traps, working tirelessly day and night. They worked so hard that they didn't even realize that the zombie army had crept up on them until it was too late. The zombie soldiers were surrounding them, and the plants were outnumbered. They quickly realized that their trap plan wouldn't work with the zombie army so close. Thinking fast, Potato yelled, "We need to improvise. Use whatever weapons you have." The plants pulled out their catapults and bows and started firing at the zombies, but the zombies kept coming, and soon they were overwhelmed. Just when it seemed like all was lost, a strange figure appeared in the distance. It was a giant plant, twice the size of any of them, with roots that seemed to stretch on forever. The giant plant charged towards the zombie army, smashing and crushing them with its massive roots. The plants watched in awe as the giant plant single-handedly defeated the entire zombie army. As the dust settled, the giant plant turned towards the smaller plants and spoke, "I am the great green giant, protector of all plant life. I heard of your bravery and came to help." The four plants were in shock. They had never heard of the great green giant before, but they were grateful for the help. The great green giant looked down at them and smiled. "Now, let's go take down those zombie bosses once and for all." The plants and the great green giant made their way to the bosses' camps. They set up their traps and waited for the bosses to arrive. When the bosses finally arrived, they were caught off guard by the traps and were quickly trapped. The plants then used their catapults and bows to take them out, one by one. The battle was over, and the plants had emerged victorious. They cheered and hugged each other, relieved that the war was finally over. But then, something strange happened. The great green giant started to shrink, and before their very eyes, it turned into a small seed. The plants were confused. They didn't understand what had just happened. But then they heard a voice. "You did it. You defeated the zombie army and saved plant kind." It was the voice of the great green giant, but it was coming from the small seed. The plants were amazed. They had never seen anything like it before. The small seed then sprouted into a small plant, with leaves and vines growing quickly. The plants realized that the great green giant had sacrificed itself to defeat the zombie army and save them all. They felt a mix of sadness and gratitude for the giant plant. As they were about to leave, they saw something odd in the distance. It was a small group of zombie soldiers that had survived the battle, trying to sneak away. The plants quickly got into position, ready to take them down. But the zombie soldiers were too quick, and they managed to sneak past them. Just when the plants thought they had lost them, they heard a loud noise. It was the sound of a tractor, and it was coming towards them. The tractor stopped, and out of it stepped a farmer with a pitchfork in hand. He looked at the plants and said, "Well, well, well, what do we have here? A bunch of talking plants. I've never seen anything like it." The plants were terrified. They had never seen a farmer before, and they had heard rumors that farmers didn't like plants. But the farmer just smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just surprised is all." The farmer then looked towards the zombie soldiers and said, "And what do we have here?" "Some undead creatures. Looks like you all could use a little help." The farmer then proceeded to chase after the zombie soldiers with his pitchfork. and the plants watched in amazement as he defeated them with ease. As the farmer walked back towards the plants, they thanked him for his help. The farmer replied, "No problem. I've been battling zombies for years. You plants are new to the scene, but you're a tough bunch. I can see that." The plants then asked the farmer if he knew what had happened to the great green giant. The farmer looked at them and said, "Oh, that old thing? Yeah, I've seen it before. It's a magical plant that appears only when plant kind is in danger. It sacrifices itself to save all of you." The plants were in awe. They had never heard of such a thing before. The farmer then said, "But don't worry, it will come back. It always does. You just have to believe in the power of plants." And with that, the farmer got back into his tractor and drove away, leaving the plants to ponder his words. As they watched the farmer disappear into the distance, they realized that they had won the war against the zombies. But it was only the beginning of their journey. They would continue to fight for plant kind and protect their home from any threats that came their way. And they would always remember the great green giant, the plant that sacrificed itself to save them all. And as they looked up at the sky, they saw a small sprout growing, a sign that the great green giant had returned once again to protect them. The plants cheered as they saw the sprout grow taller and taller, until it became a fully grown great green giant once again. The great green giant looked down at the plants and said, "I have returned to protect you all. But I cannot do it alone. I need your help." The plants knew that they needed to step up and do their part in protecting their home. They all agreed to work together and fight any threats that came their way. The great green giant then said, "I have heard rumors of a new threat to plant kind. The zombie bosses have joined forces with the weeds and are planning an attack." The plants knew that this was a serious threat, as the zombie bosses were even more powerful than the zombie soldiers. The great green giant then said, "But I have a plan. We will use catapults, bows, and traps to defeat them. And we will have the element of surprise on our side." The plants quickly got to work, building their weapons and setting their traps. They knew that they had to act fast if they were going to defeat the zombie bosses. The day of the battle arrived, and the plants were ready. They waited for the zombie bosses to arrive, hiding behind the bushes and trees. As soon as the zombie bosses came into view, the plants launched their attack. They fired their catapults and arrows, and the zombie bosses fell one by one. The weeds tried to sneak up on the plants, but they were no match for the traps that had been set. The weeds were caught in nets and pits, and the plants were able to defeat them easily. The battle was intense, but the plants never gave up. They fought with all their might, and in the end, they emerged victorious. The zombie bosses and weeds had been defeated, and plant kind was safe once again. The plants celebrated their victory, but they knew that they could not let their guard down. They would always be ready to fight any threats that came their way. As they were celebrating, the great green giant approached them and said, "You have all done well. You have proven that plant kind is strong and resilient, but there is one more thing that we need to do." The plants looked at the great green giant, wondering what else they had to do. The great green giant then said, "We need to find the source of the zombie outbreak and put an end to it once and for all." The plants knew that this was a dangerous mission, but they were determined to do whatever it took to protect their home. They set out on their journey, traveling through forests and over mountains. They faced many challenges along the way, but they never gave up. Finally, they reached the source of the zombie outbreak. It was a laboratory run by evil scientists who were experimenting on plants and zombies. The plants knew that they had to act fast if they were going to stop the evil scientists. They launched their attack, using all of the weapons and traps that they had built. The battle was intense, but the plants were able to defeat the evil scientists and destroy the laboratory. As they were leaving, they saw something strange in the distance. It was a potato, a cucumber, a corn, and a radish, all standing together. The plants approached them, wondering what they were doing there. The potato then spoke up and said, "We were created by those evil scientists. They're going to use us to create an army of plant zombie hybrids." The plants were shocked. They had never heard of such a thing before. The cucumber then said, "But we knew that we could never be a part of their evil plans. We escaped and have been hiding ever since." The plants were touched by their story and welcomed them into their home. The potato, cucumber, corn, and radish were grateful to have found a new home amongst the plants. They quickly became good friends with the other plants and started to help them rebuild and prepare for any future threats. The plants were happy to have them on their side, but they couldn't help but laugh at the sight of their new friends. The potato was round and had eyes that looked like they were always staring. The cucumber was long and thin with a slightly curved shape. The corn had rows of kernels on its cob, and the radish was small and round with a bright red color. Despite their unusual appearance, the potato, cucumber, corn, and radish proved to be valuable members of the plant community. The potato was strong and could help move heavy objects. The cucumber was quick and agile and could help with scouting. The corn had sharp kernels that could be used as weapons. And the radish was able to burrow underground to spy on enemies. With their new friends by their side, the plants felt stronger and more confident than ever before. They knew that they could handle any challenge that came their way. As time passed, the plants continued to work together to protect their home. They built new traps and weapons, and they trained for any possible scenario. One day, they received news of a new threat. It was an army of zombie chickens that were terrorizing nearby farms. The plants knew that they had to act fast if they were going to stop the zombie chickens from spreading their destruction. They gathered their weapons and set out to battle the new threat. As they approached the farms, they saw the zombie chickens in the distance. The chickens were clucking and squawking as they rampaged through the fields. The plants knew that they had to act fast if they were going to stop the zombie chickens. They launched their attack, firing their catapults and arrows, and using their traps to slow down the chickens. The zombie chickens were tough, but the plants were determined to win. They fought with all their might, and in the end, they were able to defeat the zombie chickens and save the farms. As they were celebrating their victory, they heard a loud noise in the distance. It was the sound of a massive horde of zombie soldiers marching towards them. The plants knew that this was going to be their biggest challenge yet. They knew that they had to work together and fight with all their might if they were going to survive. The potato, cucumber, corn, and radish stepped forward, ready to fight alongside their new friends. They knew that they had to do everything in their power to protect their home. The battle was intense, and the plants fought bravely. They used their weapons and traps to slow down the zombie soldiers, but they soon realized that it wasn't enough. The plants were starting to lose hope, but then something unexpected happened. The zombie soldiers suddenly stopped in their tracks and started to dance. The plants were confused but relieved to see that the zombie soldiers had been put under a spell by a powerful magician who had been watching the battle from afar. The magician approached the plants and said, "I have been watching your battle, and I am impressed by your bravery and determination. I have decided to spare your lives and let you go free." The plants were relieved and grateful to have been spared. They thanked the magician and quickly left the battlefield, knowing that they had narrowly escaped a terrible fate. As they were leaving, the potato turned to the cucumber, corn, and radish and said, "Well, that was a close one. I don't think I could have handled being a zombie soldier, but I have to say, those guys do have some pretty impressive dance moves." The cucumber, corn, and radish laughed, and the potato joined in. They all knew that they had just been through a crazy adventure that they would never forget. As they made their way back home, the plants talked about everything they had learned from their experience. They had learned the value of friendship, the importance of working together, and the power of determination. The potato, cucumber, corn, and radish were grateful to have found a new home amongst the plants. They knew that they had found a place where they belonged and where they could make a difference. And so the plants continued to work together to protect their home from any future threats. They knew that they would face challenges along the way, but they were ready for anything that came their way. As they settled back into their routine, the plants couldn't help but smile as they remembered the crazy adventure they had been through. They knew that they would always have each other's backs and that they could count on their new friends to help them through anything. And as for the zombie soldiers and bosses, well, they eventually found a new purpose in life. They opened up a dance studio and started teaching their famous moves to other zombies. It turned out that their love for dance was stronger than their love for war. And so the story ends with a lesson learned, that sometimes the most unlikely of friendships can lead to the greatest adventures, and who knows, maybe even a dance party or two. Well, the story has come to an end. I'm sure you like this story, and you will like it with pleasure. Also subscribe to our channel and be sure to leave your feedback in the comments under this video. See you in the next video.